So last week we completed the 24th verse of chapter 3, Karma Yoga, the path of action, which he has given clearly the intellectual reason and 20 to 24 the emotional appeal to Arjuna's head and his heart. So I told you, you have to assess the listener's receptivity. Sometimes you need reason, sometimes you need emotion. So if you see this on the board, you see how beautifully the chapter is organized. In fact, the whole Gita is like that. So he gives first the path of action. He introduces the path of action from 1 to 3. And then the second topic is an intellectual appeal for action, 4 to 19. Third, emotional appeal for action, like we just explained, 20 to 24. So only when Arjuna is fully ready, then 25 to 35, which we start today, he gives the technique of right action. Now, what do you really need to do? Then, fifth is what prevents you from doing the right action, impediments to right action, 36 to 39. And topic 6, way to overcome these impediments, 40 to 43. So some of you may not know, most of you do. These are not part of the original Gita, these topic demarcations. This is an original contribution of Swamiji. He has given the thought flow in each chapter, which becomes very useful. So the Gita is divided into 18 chapters, but each chapter, there is a particular thought flow which you have to understand. So that's why for your backup reading, your listening, of course, you should get his commentary, right? Most of you know. It's there on the web, on our website. Swami Parthasarthi, his commentary on every verse he has explained. So it's very useful for you to back that up with the lectures. So now before we get into this technique of right action, yes, Vikram, you have your hand up.
The question from Raj. Hariom Gautamji, he mentioned in verse 17 about having the curiosity to find out what is happening and what is causing you agitation. If this causes me anxiety, how can I overcome this with my intellect?
What causes you anxiety? This means what? I cause you.
The curiosity to find out what is happening.
Huh?
The
curiosity to find out what? What is happening with my life?
What is happening? What is causing agitation? If that itself is causing anxiety, what happens?
You are agitated, and the curiosity to find out what is agitating you causes more agitation.
That's what it looks like.
Now, so many agitations, what do you want me to do? See, what we are saying is, you have a disease. You should find out what is causing the disease so you can take the cure. Now, suppose you say to find out what is causing the disease, is causing me agitation. Now, what do you want me to do? Be diseased and be agitated. What can anybody say? So, it's like a vaccine or a shot you have to take. You have to take it to cure the disease, right? Let's say you got an infection and a doctor says you need an antibiotic shot. Now that shot will cause me agitation. Yes, it may, but it cures the disease. So you have to go through that temporary agitation. So this happens in the beginning of any spiritual journey because you're neither satisfied with the world, you understand there's something beyond this, and neither are you established in the self. So that transition will cause agitation. Just as the transition from school to college causes agitation because you're attached to the school, but you understand you've outgrown it. You're attached to your school friends, right? So you have to go through that agitation if you want to get into college. Otherwise, remain in school. Whole life you'll remain in the 12th grade. So it's like that. Any growth will cause a temporary agitation, which if you continue will be overcome. So don't worry about that part of it. Pursuing the path or gaining the knowledge, I'm assuming that's what you mean. That's okay. That's in just temporary. Right? 25.
सक्ताः कर्मण्य विद्वांसः यथा कुर्वन्ति भारत कुर्याद् विद्वांस्तथा सक्तः चिकीर्षुर्लोकसङ्ग्रहम्.
O Bharata, as the ignorant act attached to action, Saktah karmanya avidvam, vidvan wise, avidvam ignorant. Kuryans tatha vidvan asakta. So should the wise act, asakta, unattached, wishing the welfare of the world, loka sangraham. So right as he starts this topic, he gives the fundamentals. This is a very important verse in which he explains the two aspects of right action. As I was explaining even yesterday in the Vedanta treatise class, the main misconception in India is that people believe Vedanta is a philosophy of retirement and resignation, where you leave active life, participation in the world, which is completely untrue, but it's so strong that nobody wants to get this knowledge. So this verse you should make a note. What is he saying? See, two things very important. Number one, the reason for action. You cannot stop action. What should be the reason for action is loka sangraham, wishing the welfare of the world. So in other words, there has to be a higher purpose beyond your selfish interest. Now we keep repeating this, but what is more important is what are you doing about it? You have to ask yourself. Every action, every thought is how I can benefit myself and my family. And if that is your life, you're not going to get anywhere spiritually. You're just going to be like anybody else, material, sensual, me and mine. So, however high you can conceive, you must ask yourself, how are my actions benefiting others? In what way am I making a contribution? That should be your focus throughout the day. So a doctor goes to work, the focus should be how many patients can I help? They've come here to my clinic to remove some pain, right? Why would you go to a doctor? How can I help? That's it. You can charge your fees or whatever you do. You can make your salary. No, everybody has to make a living. But that's not why you work. That's by the way. Now it's become the reason why you live, why you work. As Churchill said, we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. So are you just making a living or are you living a life? So ask yourself. How can I benefit my colleagues, my organization? How can I help society, others? Whatever way, that should be your focus. So that is what he means. He's giving it very clearly. Unattached, wishing the welfare of the world. So he's equating non-attachment to mean not being attached to one's own selfishness, fruits of action for oneself. Understood? And two, intensity of action. This is the second wrong belief everyone has, that if you work unselfishly, you will lose the intensity. You will not work as hard. People believe that. The truth is exactly the opposite. So he's saying the ignorant act selfishly, attached. So should you act. Means just as they are so intensively acting just for themselves, you should also act. It's not that you should not act. You should have less intensity, less commitment, but your goal is different. In fact, they feel the intensity. That's why they're stressed, because they're selfish. When you're unselfish, you don't feel the action, because it is selfishness which stresses you out. So you gain tremendous power, tremendous energy to act. You look at the lives of all those who dedicated their lives to some sort of cause. You see how they act. See the freedom fighters. They're willing to go through imprisonment. They're willing to go through suffering and torture. You see so many lives. See Mahatma Gandhi, you see Mandela, whoever. You see how Lincoln worked to free this country from slavery. Constant action, inspired action. You see scientists who dedicate their lives to finding cures for humanity. Hours and days and months and years in the lab. Working, because they were inspired. What is your attitude to action? By Friday, I'm hanging in there. How are you doing? I'm hanging in there. Not Friday, by Thursday itself. Friday is too much. Because there's no higher purpose. You're just going there for your paycheck. You're going there to make use of your employees. And you get disgusted and monotonous after a while. It is selfishness that pulls you down. Remember that. It is unselfishness that inspires you. See, Ramatirtha says, look at nature. The sun shines beautifully, enlivening this whole world. It has no motives. The rose gives fragrance. Does the rose say, how many people are smelling me today? Only then I'll release my fragrance. It gives fragrance because it ought to give it. That should be your life. You don't need a motive. You just need to act selflessly. Incredible action. You become powerful. See, like a soldier on a battlefield who's lost fear of his life, they become powerful. They go right into the enemy lines. No problem. I mean, it's amazing how much power it gives you if you lose that feeling of me and mine. I always give you this example, right, of who's that? Who is that who discovered rabies cure? Pasteur, I don't know. One of them. So he who discovered the cure for rabies, Jenner, I don't know who it was. One of these great scientists. So the problem is, how do you get a sample to do experiments on? How? Because if you go near that animal, They used to cage the animals, right? How do you get the saliva to do the experiment? None of his assistants used to go. Because it touches you, you're dead. There's no cure. Horrible death. Even now there's no cure. There's a vaccine before you get it. If you get it, you're gone. So he used to go with a straw, on his mouth and suck out the saliva till it was almost to his mouth. And then hurry to the lab. How can you do that if you're selfish? What will happen? I don't have life insurance for my children. You can't. It's not possible. So wherever you're attached, you're weak. You're a slave. You're detached, you're free, you're powerful. You understand? So that's what he says. Selfless goal, intensity of action, peaceful, powerful. This is it. It's an incredible verse where he gives the fundamentals. In the 30th verse, he'll give the unit of action. Here he gives the purpose of action, the commitment to action. And 30th verse, he will give what is a perfect unit of action. These were thousands of years ago. All management comes from here. You know that? All leadership, all management. The fundamentals come from here, from the Gita. In fact, next verse is leadership.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Why is the word attachment to action used? I understand attachment to outcomes. Right? The selfish act attached to their own selfish outcomes, while the unselfish act for the welfare of the world. So not attached to their own outcomes. But I don't understand attached to action itself.
Attached to action, it's the same thing. See, your desire comes from the past, right? Where does your desire for action come? That selfish desire. It's coming from your past. Your past thought flow has created present desire. So it comes from the past. It goes into the future as an anxiety to achieve that fruit. And that same desire manifests in the present as a tremendous craving to act. That's what he means, attachment. It's the same thing. Past, present, future. So morning, I have to to work. Today what I have to do, right? And then you come home also, what happened at work tomorrow, what will happen? So there is an obsession with that action to get you that fruit. So all the time you're stressed. You're stressed while acting and you're agitated about the result of the action. And that's why you get tired all the time. That's why you feel tired. It's not work which tires. It's these two things. That mental pressure which tires everybody. So I've told you, right? Children are never tired. Young kids. Even though they're acting whole day. What did you do? You're sitting in an air-conditioned office. Not moving. One place. And you come home, I'm so tired. Doing what? And they're running, jumping whole day. They're not tired. Because that mental pressure is not there. Got it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Shreyas.
Hariom Gautamji. Selfless goal. It's a very naive question, like many of mine. Can we discuss a selfless goal with someone? We're all learning here on the spot. Is that something that we can discuss with someone? And if so, who would you recommend we discuss with?
Who would I recommend? Who's working for an unselfish goal? Nobody. So it is your conviction that you have to follow. As I told you, what is that which inspires you? So you're working for a company. How can I be of best service to this organization? You can work for a cause that inspires you, which is helping others. Whatever inspires you. There should be some purpose beyond your selfish interest. That's all. So it's your own conviction. What inspires you? Who you're going to ask? They'll make your purpose their purpose. You understand? What? Which purpose? What? Don't ask. You study, understand this knowledge, and follow your conviction. It's all internal. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Vasu, yeah.
Gautamji, just a quick question. You mentioned this quote from Khalil Gibran before, about the musk and yonder valley. That seems to be very closely related to the principle of action. Could you briefly elaborate on that? So that seems to be a very valuable sort of
that is
reminder.
Not that is on giving. That is not on action.
Okay.
The myrtle. Why you made it musk? Poor thing. He said the myrtle in yonder valley gives its fragrance. You made it musk. Leave those poor musk alone. Worst thing you can do is use animals for your selfish purpose. So what unselfish you're asking, Shreyas? First look at what selfish destruction you're doing to the world. Reduce that. So I know fellows, I am totally vegetarian. They have dogs. And what are they feeding the dogs? All the meat in the world. I mean, first analyze what you're doing. And simply talking, I want to be on karma yoga. Destroying everything. First, cause less agitation to your spouse. That will be the first way to start. Anybody in your presence is agitated. The minute the children see you, they want to run. The minute the spouse sees you, a frown. First, create a smile. Charity begins at home. Hmm. 26.
न बुद्धिभेदं जनयेत् अज्ञानां कर्मसङ्गिनां योषयेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्तः समाचरन्.
Let not the wise man unsettle the minds of the ignorant attached to action. Acting united with the self. Let him render all actions attractive. Now, what he's trying to say here, first thing, he's just given you how you should act. Second principle which he's talking about here is, it is personal, in the sense you have to work on changing yourself. The first tendency we have is, even if we learn something good, you don't want to apply it, you want to lecture to others about it. Typical, anybody hears this, is almost sickening. My children will really benefit. Do you have anything for children? Whole lot. It will not work. Because children will hear this 1 hour. Rest of the time they're looking at you and how you are acting. How will it work? They're looking at everybody in society acting completely selfishly. So you want this knowledge to have an impact even on your kids. You first live the values. This is leadership. A true leader is one who follows this. They live an ideal life themselves and render their actions attractive to others. So first thing you will hear this and you'll go home and tell your spouse, you should listen to this. And she's never listened to you all her life, and that same thing's going to continue. So that person should get attracted. Look, you used to lose your temper. I've seen lately you don't. How is it? Then you can tell them. They are attracted by your example. That is the most powerful way to educate others. So whole thing is introvert. You work on elevating yourself. Please understand. What did all these masters do? The great spiritual masters of the past. They only elevated themselves. Whole world came to them. But what did they do? They didn't start talking to others. They grew themselves. And people will come. So you see fellows running all over the world lecturing, nothing inside. Talking. What are you doing about yourself? So in the Village Preacher, the beautiful poem of human perfection, it says, truth from his lips prevailed with double sway, and fools who came to scoff remained to pray. See, he used to speak gospel, truth, and fools used to come to the lecture to scoff. They used to remain to pray. It's your truth and conviction which attracts people, which makes an impact, not simply talking. You have to elevate yourself. So you see in the Puranas also, you see a picture of Valmiki's hermitage. Even the animals used to come there to listen to him speak. It's all symbolic. What it means is when you have self-development, you make yourself attractive. That has an impact. Not telling others what to do. Not preaching and sermonizing. And all the time you're doing that. Lecturing. So this is the first principle, how you get onto it. You work on your growth and don't talk about it unless you're asked. Of course, we always say we should expose the knowledge, we should advertise it, of course, to help people. Once you can tell them, this has helped me. Beyond that, don't lecture to people. Let them understand through your own example. Makes a tremendous impact. So many people, so many of you have joined because you've seen the change in your spouse or friend or whatever. So many. Keep telling me. That's the way to teach others. Chitra?
Gautamji, based on what you just said, it's reminding me of something else you had taught in the past about being aggressively good. And I don't know if there's a connection between that and what you just said. Focus on elevating yourself. The great masters, all of them came flocking there. But they came flocking there and they took that wisdom and they took it out. And they have, I think, used it also unscrupulously to make money out of it. For example, yoga, centers, this and that. And so nothing much was achieved by the great masters for the for their own country, let's say, and I might be mistaken in this logic.
Which great masters you're talking about? You are giving your own definition.
The ones who have put all these theories together, right, for thousands of years.
So what are you connecting that to yoga centers? What does Vedanta have to do with yoga centers? I don't understand.
All these, the leadership principles, for instance, right? The bottom line is this one. And it's being taken, repackaged, resold for profitability.
No. What you're talking is completely different than what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make an impact, you grow yourself. You're talking about people who have not grown themselves and selling and packaging. Let them live their life. What is your problem? You want to make an impact, you grow yourself. That's all. That has nothing to do with what others are doing. 27.
Prakriti kriyamani gunaih karmani sarvashah ahankara vimurdhatma kartahamiti manyate.
Next principle of right action. Actions in all cases are performed by the gunas, the qualities of Prakriti, nature. One who is deluded by egoism thinks, I am the doer. So, what he's talking about here is the action comes from desire. Desire comes from vasanas. Vasanas is your nature, Prakriti. So you have music vasanas, you'll have music thoughts, music desires, you'll be a musician. So action is a result of this matter of vasanas. It is not done by the Atman, the self. The self remains a witness. So a person of knowledge understands that the goal of life is to go beyond these vasanas and get to the self. He understands himself to be the self. That's what is implied here. But others who are deluded by egoism, they believe themselves to be this body, mind, intellect. That is ego. Right now we are all deluded by this ego that I am the body, mind, intellect. And you go along with this ego and further enmesh yourself and lose sight of your purpose in life. So he's saying, look, actions are performed by matter, not the self. The self lies beyond this realm of desire and action. So what is implied here is you have to act to get to that self, to separate the self from matter. But we don't. Why? Completely deluded. You're so caught up in this egoistic concept. See, philosophically, you are the self. You are not this body, mind, intellect. But we are deluded. See, it's like a dreamer is deluded to believe that he's the dreamer. When you're in the waking state, you're completely full. You've eaten to your heart's content, right? In the dream state, you're starving. You're actually feeling the hunger. It's delusion. You believe yourself to be that dreamer. You're not. So why are you deluding yourself to believe yourself in sorrow? Body, mind, intellect is nothing but sorrow. Get back to the self. That's what he says here. One who is deluded by egoism thinks, I am the doer. So remember that, friends. The real self is beyond action. Action is a result of ignorance, which is prakriti, vasanas, not the self. Yes, Manish, you had something?
Yes, Hariom Gautamji. So I'm just trying to make sense out of this verse, a powerful verse, but the one previous where you said that you need to change yourself first in order to make an example, and then people notice and come to you.
Right.
Whereas in here, you say, I am not, I am basically the result of the vasanas, actions that I perform. And we have delusion that I'm the body, mind, and intellect. Body, okay, that's material. Mind, I agree. We probably will take from one life to another. But intellect is what you need to do to change yourself from verse 26 to be able to raise yourself. So you still have to somehow be associated and say, yes, I'm going to use my intellect to better myself. So I have this intellect in this particular
yes. So you need your body and mind also. What does that have to do with anything? You can use your intellect without your body. Body is necessary for the mind intellect to function. Mind is necessary. How can you live without a mind? That's not what we're saying. If you act in a way to rise above your body, mind, intellect, which is spiritual action, you will inspire others. If you act in a way to go along with this ego, that I am the body, mind, intellect, you will be like anybody else. You will be desire-ridden, miserable, self-centered human being. So both are correct. That's why he says you have to understand each verse for what its message is. Yes, Kimberly.
Thank you. So you say action comes from desire, and your desires come from your nature. So if we act in according to other people outside of ourselves, then we're rising above our nature?
No, you have the choice to go along with your current set of desires. But as a human being, you also have the choice to overcome them and reach yourself. So it is the exercising of the choice he's talking about. You can go along with your vasanas, vasanas means nature, desires, or you can act in a way to overcome them. You have that choice. So human minus this ego which he's talking about, and the desires coming out of this ego, selfishness. If you can remove this ego and selfishness completely, you're enlightened. So you can do that. You have that choice. Yeah.
So in this verse, who is the karta? Is there a concept of karta? Like
who is the actor is you. The body, mind, intellect is doing the action, right? With the body you're perceiving and acting, with the mind you're feeling, with the intellect you're conceptualizing. These are actions done by the combination, body, mind, intellect.
So the karta is body.
Yes. That which does, no. Karta means what? That which does. Right? Yes.
Yeah, Hariom Gautamji. So when we talked about I am the doer, and that, and then we have all the spiritual practice. Are we basically going towards I'm not doer? Is that also part of the spiritual practice?
Yes, which is the self. See, right now you are made up of the consciousness, the spirit, the self, covered by the body, mind, intellect, right? So you have the choice to go along with the body, mind, intellect. The body feels hot, you say, I feel hot. The mind feels jealous, you say, I am jealous, right? intellect says I am brilliant or dull. You say I am brilliant or dull. Why? So you have the choice to go along with the body, mind, intellect, or assert what you really are, which is the self. So you say, no, I am that consciousness beyond the body, mind, intellect. So you negate the body, mind, intellect, you assert your real self. This is the whole spiritual path. Correct? That's it. You have that choice. And I also told you the easiest way to negate is not go along with your selfishness. Go along with an unselfish thought. Because directly you can't say I am the self. You don't know what that is. You don't have even a powerful concept of what it is. That takes time. You got it? Yes, Jayu, you had something?
Hari Om Gautamji. In this verse, when it says that the action is performed by the gunas, and if you don't say that I am the doer, how do you take accountability for the action? Because only when you take the accountability can you change yourself, right? So to some extent, you have to say that I'm responsible for what I did, and I have to correct what I did or make the right choice.
So what does that have to do with anything?
Because it says here, one who is deluded by egoism thinks that I'm the doer.
Yeah.
So
see, he's giving philosophically what is the truth. You are the self. Now you're believing that I am Jayu. This is a delusion born out of ego. This belief that I am this person. So now you have to reverse this process and get back to the self. That's what he's saying. Now, who's saying not to take accountability for your actions? So you go along with your selfish desires, you will pay the price for that. You should understand that and not do that. That's how you grow out of it. So it's not I am not the doer, I'm not the doer, I'm not the doer, I'm not the doer. Did you have lunch? I'm not the doer, I didn't have lunch. Give me again. It's not absurdity like that. He's talking about the mental identification. I have nothing to do with this body, mind, intellect. I am the self. Now, if you perform a selfish action, you're going along with that delusion. You will pay the price, of course. That is different. Yes, Vikram?
There's a question from Roberta. Please explain the sentence, the self is the primeval source of all activity when the self does not act.
The self is the primeval source of action while itself doesn't act. Yes, self is consciousness. Unless you're conscious of your desires, how will you act? You have to be conscious of hunger, right? To go get food. If you're not conscious of hunger, how will you eat? You can't eat. So, without consciousness, you can't act. But consciousness has nothing to do with your action, whether you eat or not. It is that desire which is making you eat. That's all he's saying. But without consciousness, you won't eat. Both are true. It's like gasoline in a car, petrol in a car has nothing to do with where the car moves. The driver decides that. But without petrol, you can't go anywhere. Consciousness is like that. That's exactly what he's saying. It has nothing to do with action. You're deluded to think that you are acting this. You're not. So, in other words, our goal should be to get out of this delusion, not make it worse. And everything we're doing is making it worse and worse. That's the problem.
Tattva-vittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayoho gunaguneshu vartante iti matva na sajjate.
But he, O Mahabaho, with true insight into the distinction of gunas and actions, guna guneshu vartante, knowing that gunas as the subject abides in gunas as the object, is not attached. One of the fabulous verses. Now, having given how you should act, what is the relationship of the self to action, now he talks about how you should look at the world and not get involved in others' actions. Focus on your own action. That's implied. So he says a person who has this insight into life understands that as the gunas, so the action. Having understood that, he doesn't get attached. Now what it means is, if you have elephant gunas, you'll be with elephants. If you have ant gunas, you'll be with ants. If you have alcohol gunas, you'll be in a bar. If you have gambling gunas, you'll be in a casino. If you have spiritual gunas, you'll be learning this knowledge. This is the world. So what is attachment then? He's saying you understand this, you're not attached. That's all he's saying. But does any one of us understand this? You don't understand a word. I'm telling you. Do you understand when your husband is rude? A rude person will be rude. Let him be rude. When your wife nags, nagging person will nag. Go on nagging. If you understood, that's how you will look at life. So what is attachment? Huh? Wanting world. No, others who don't know. You will be hearing all the lectures. wanting. Those who have not heard this before, guna guneshu vartante iti matva nasajjate. It will help you so much in your day-to-day life. That's why I'm telling you. Because none of us practice it, even those who are giving the answers. No practice at all, simply answers after answer. So what does it mean? Huh? Any newcomer want to get in the line of fire? Because old comers know. They all keep quiet, they're very smart they become. They don't want to get a bullet. So he says, I want to see, this is how you got to think. He says, if you understand gunas go to gunas, you're not attached. Now obviously we are all attached. So what does it mean? What are we not understanding? What are we not doing? Where are we going wrong? Anyone? Jayu, what is it? You are not allowed. She is the oldest. Nothing goes in after so many years also. So, I'm talking a relative newcomer between 0 to 2 years.
Don't have expectations.
Kimberly, yes, you can help.
So if I understand that ants hang out with ants and that I'm an ant and that I just hang out with ants, I'm not attached to trying to be a bird.
A bird. That's what you said?
Yes.
It's not you're not trying to be a bird. You're right. You don't want an ant to be a bird. You understand? Attachment is that. Attachment is looking at the world as you want it to be, not how it is. And that's where we go wrong in everything in life. So Kimberly, don't make yourself an ant or a bird. All we're saying is, don't expect an ant to be a bird. Correct? How can an ant be a bird? Now, why don't you understand that when it comes to your relationships, where you have the maximum problem? I have a rude husband. Argument's sake. Why are you agitated? You are expecting a rude person to be polite. It cannot happen. It will not happen. A person changes when they want to change, not when you want them to change. So yesterday I was talking, still fighting going on. So one of our students was saying, our parents been married 50 years. Same things they fight about. 50 years. Can you imagine how bad the intellect is? You fighting the same thing for 50 years. He drinks too much, he drinks too much, he drinks too much. In 50 years, the drinking is going higher and higher. Because the more he drinks, the less he hears her complaining. Eats too much, eats too much. You ask yourself, don't laugh. Ask yourself, you complain about the same thing for decades, not understanding. In spite of your complaints and nagging, person is what they are. So imagine if first day you had Vedanta after a marriage. What a marriage. No two people are the same. That's it. Just leave them alone. In the sense, they are what they are. That is a marriage. That is a partnership. Relationship. The boss expects all the employees to have the same capability. That's why they all heart attack cases. How is it possible? One employee comes late but is efficient. One employee very efficient but always late. You have to understand. This is the world. Like Shelley said, it's a tomb of many colored glass. A dome, of many colored glass is the world. It's a tomb also. That is everybody goes there. That is one color only, death. But before that, it's many colors make up the world. So you expect a drunkard to go listen to Bhagavad Gita. It's not possible. You expect a person who's interested in this spirit to be interested in that spirit. Not possible. Right? There are fellows who are half-half. That's possible. But the half time when he's in that spirit, he won't be in the spirit. That's all. Understand that. So where is the problem? You can tell them once, you can tell them twice, thrice. How many? You've been trying decades. Still they'll go on trying. And children, you can only try up to a point. Minute they leave the house, goodbye. Then you can't tell them anything. Because they're dependent, you can go on lecturing. That's why they're all waiting to go to college. Waiting for the day they're out of your clutches. Then you'll get Mother's Day, Father's Day. That's all. Goodbye. Because you want them to be what you want, not what they are. That's it. So again, you must understand the world will be what it is and focus on what you need to do. If you need to do something with the world, do it. But your focus should be, what do I ought to do? And understand the world will be what it is. If it's your obligation to change it, change it. But till you change it, understand this is what it will be. So simple thing we don't understand. Even the weather you don't understand. Weather will be what it is. It's cold, it's cold, it's cold. It's hot, it's hot. It's most ridiculous. things we are doing all the time. So he says here, Guna guneshu vartante iti matva na sajjate. You understand? So since couple of you many of you keep coming new, I periodically tell you, number one, it should be like a classroom style where you have no disturbance from outside factors. So the recommendation is eating or doing something else while you're in the class. It's going to impede your receptivity. That's why it's always worth it to keep your video on and you're in a quiet place so that your receptivity is like a classroom. Otherwise, already you're in an environment which is not a classroom, your home. Already your receptivity is 50% gone. And if you, so these are again external props to help you maintain attention. So I would recommend be in a quiet place and keep your video on, so that gives you that feeling that you're in a class, you're being watched. Immediately your receptivity goes up. It will help you. Trust me, I have no interest either way. And secondly, we started, those of you who don't attend, the Saturday session. We are getting into the real philosophy. Yesterday we started the topic on renunciation, detachment. So it's always useful to attend that along with the Gita session. So you're welcome. It's the same link. And even if you can't attend it live for whatever reason, the YouTube lectures are there to catch up, the recordings. So if you have any questions, I saw a few hands up. We can take them on Wednesday during the Q&A. You can send them via email and I'll answer them for you. We'll see you on Wednesday. Hari Om.